In response to ICE's escalating reign of terror and 3 big raids they conducted in LA yesterday, large numbers of people took to the streets in protest, and actually a lot of them are still there right now. Americans all over the country recognize the cruelty of what ICE is doing, illegality of their actions, the direct harm that is being caused to their friends, family, and neighbors. And Americans are rising up against it. But I've seen folks freaking out all over Blue Sky today because the response from ICE and the LAPD yesterday to the protests has been nothing short of brutal. I want to show you a couple clips from Blue Sky. Please understand that I can show you only the most mild of the footage or my video will get taken down. And please understand that people are rightly scared watching the video evidence all over social media of what ICE and the LAPD are doing. They're brutalizing protesters. I want to show you some of these clips as well as some still images and talk about it, because I understand having a very strong, visceral, emotional reaction when you watch the state being violent toward regular, everyday Americans. It is regular working class people who are fed up with this. Union members, the president of the SEIU of California, David Huerta, was injured by ICE yesterday. The reports are they threw him to the ground and he hit his head, and they also tased him. He was arrested and he is going to be charged. He's not the only one. Dozens of people were arrested yesterday by ICE. American citizens were arrested yesterday. I know that watching the footage has gotten people really escalated, and folks are really freaking out, saying that this is the beginning of martial law. Trump is about to invoke the Insurrection Act. And I understand having that really heightened emotional response to seeing footage like this. But I just want us all to take a breath for a moment and understand that the goal of the state being violent toward all of us is to intimidate us. The goal is to scare you shitless and get you to give up your rights in advance. The goal is to scare you into backing down and letting this regime roll right on in. I want to share the footage, and then I want us all to take a breath, and then I want to talk about the reaction that we should be having. This is LAPD, this is not ICE.
Can't move any faster than the people in front of me.
Watching local law enforcement, who should be protecting the American people from the terror of ICE, is not surprising, but it's heartbreaking. If you're wondering who they were firing tear gas and flashbangs at, if you're wondering who they were firing those less lethal rubber bullets at, actually, before I show you, if you're wondering who they were using those giant batons on, I actually have a clip of ICE beating a man with the baton, but I can't show it to you or I will get this video taken down. However, the AP captured a still image, so I can show you that. Real quick, here's another look at the LAPD assisting ICE as thousands of protesters rise up against the inhumane things that this regime is doing to our immigrants. But here's the photo. You can find the whole video on both Instagram and Blue Sky. ICE had these large batons. They look like a baseball bat and a pool cue had a baby. And here you can see he is using it to hit a protester in the back. This is the same location, but I don't know if this is the same officer in the video clip I showed earlier who dropped his baton at the beginning of the video, because there were lots of ICE agents carrying these around. If you want to see who the LAPD and the Trump regime were brutalizing, Chris Hayes actually covered the protests extensively last night, and they are still going on today. ABC News reported that it was hundreds of protesters, but let me show you a little bit of the footage. And then I want to talk about what response I think is appropriate.
The protest is taking place outside the LA headquarters of ICE.
So these are two protests converging at the same time here. I want to show you this one that's coming from the Metropolitan Detention Center which is the jail that is run by the federal government, or the county and the federal government downtown in downtown LA, is converging with this protest that's coming over here. Scott Killian, why don't you walk with me? Chris, what happened here today in Los Angeles, I think, is the worst nightmare for so many people who live here. You know, Los Angeles is a largely so-called minority majority city. There are just as many people of color here as there are white people. And in fact, 10% of the population of Los Angeles County, come with me, which is one of the largest counties, the largest by population in the United States, is undocumented. There could be as many as 1 million undocumented people who live here in Los Angeles. And what you saw today, and what all of these people are protesting, is large-scale immigration enforcement raids. What you're looking at on the left-hand side of your screen is this protest from the sky. The helicopters are directly above me. You saw, I'm sorry for the noise, but you saw tactical officers on things like Bearcat vehicles, flashbang grenades on the city streets of Los Angeles, which largely felt like, as some people described in local media, that the military was on the streets of Los Angeles. Historically, the Los Angeles Police Department does not cooperate with immigration enforcement efforts. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department does not cooperate with immigration enforcement efforts. But when you have got ICE in Los Angeles showing up reportedly at Home Depot, where many undocumented people go to get work as day laborers, you know the National Day Laborer Organizing Network well. Many of those people responded in the wake of the fires here in Los Angeles. When you've got ICE showing up outside of places like schools, it quite literally is striking fear into the heart of people all throughout this community. And it is, I think it's fair to say, the worst fear of so many people here who live in Los Angeles and who have heard President Trump threaten that they would do this. But when this day comes on a Friday morning that stretches into a Friday afternoon, people in Los Angeles are mobilizing and they are very upset. You have Cheerla here, one of the big NGOs here that fights on behalf of immigrant rights. Everybody is out today because obviously this is not to be tolerated by these folks here on the streets of Los Angeles, Chris.
Yeah, and just to be clear here, my understanding of these raids today, these were just workplace. It wasn't like there was some list of people who they suspected were dangerous or guilty of crimes. These were, we've seen more and more of these basically workplace raids, like show up to a place where people are employed and doing a job and go in, right? That
Chris is absolutely right. What this regime is doing over and over again is that the dehumanizing propaganda of Donald Trump, where he tries to convince us all that the only people that ICE is rounding up are thugs and violent criminals and gang members, and it's for the safety of the American people. So we need to let ICE obliterate our rights and go ahead and carry out these raids and terrorize neighborhoods all across the country. The American people are seeing that that is a complete load of horseshit. Over and over again, we see news stories, we see video clips of them coming for mothers with little children, of them coming for asylum seekers, of them coming for college students, and definitely of them coming for regular, everyday, decent working people. They're trying to raid schools. A high school student was snatched by ICE last week on his way to volleyball practice. They're raiding construction sites. They're raiding farms. They're raiding the Home Depot. They're raiding places where immigrants are hard-working people with no criminal record. This is not about making America safe or great at all. This is about instituting an authoritarian state. This is the embodiment of the first they came for poem. First, they tell you they're just coming for violent gang members and criminals. And then they tell you that they're coming for folks who are mooching off our welfare. And in reality, they're coming for decent working people who pay their rent, pay their taxes, work very difficult jobs here in the States, and are just trying to quietly, peacefully live their lives. And I think one of the consequences of what ICE is doing now is that they are creating a backlash effect in two different ways. One, when the state brutalizes protesters who are committed to nonviolence and are protesting for just causes, that shifts public perception of the state. It turns regular people who are not invested in the resistance as of yet against the state. And likewise, when it becomes apparent to everybody that the state is not in fact keeping us safer, they are not in fact just rounding up violent criminals, but are instead terrorizing decent working families, public perception begins to shift from law enforcement that is keeping us safe to cruel, inhumane oppressors who are coming for decent, hardworking people. I know that this is really scary. We have no evidence that this is going to become martial law or the Insurrection Act will be invoked. Please don't catastrophize. Please understand that right now it is more important than ever that we engage in our First Amendment rights. that we peacefully protest, that we commit to nonviolence. And the brutality of the state will backlash on them.